go. All right, good morning. Welcome to our first FIMC webinar of the school year. Well, we did have one before this. I'll tell you about that later. But our webinar today is FIMC-VI Info and Updates. My name is Liz Anderson, and I am the project director of FIMC. We do have captions available for this webinar. You should see a caption button in your Zoom menu bar, and you can choose show subtitle, or it may say captions on there. And the captions will appear along the bottom of your screen. We have the chat window available to you to enter your questions as we're going through. So just make sure next to the word to, you change the drop down to everyone so everyone can see what you're typing in the chat. I am going to put the link to the handout in the chat, so that's there for you, and we are recording this. So the recording and the handout will be posted to the past events page of our website under the Florida Specific Meetings and Webinars section within a week. And also I have with me Tiffany Conrad, our coordinator. She's
Good
joining us
morning.
today.
Morning, everyone. I'll just be lurking in the background to help and support. So good morning and nice to see everyone.
Yes, all right. So here is our agenda for the morning. We are kicking off the school year 9:10-ish. We're going to talk about our services that we have here at FIMC. We're going to be going over lots of different things. We'll do our follow-up and questions. We do have an evaluation form for you, the in-service credit form, and we plan to end by 10:30. This webinar is the first part of a three-part series. So this has been going on for quite a while. I think most of you on here are familiar with this, but this is our first webinar. The second part of this three-part series will be on November 20th, and that's primarily going to address the annual census. The third part will be on March 26th, and that's going to cover end-of-year procedures, ordering textbooks from us, returning items to FIMC that you borrowed from us throughout the year, including textbooks. Before we get started, how about we type in the chat, what is one fun thing that you did this summer? And I hope that you had a summer, a break, even if it was just like a week, a weekend. It might be hard to even remember that far back, considering we're now already in the new school year. I try to think of one fun thing I did this summer. It does seem like it went by incredibly fast. I did stay on the beach for a few days. Even though I lived 10 minutes from the beach, I stayed by the beach so I could walk to the beach rather than driving. That was very lovely to go and watch the sunrise and the sunset. Oh, Megan, you moved.
Ooh,
Oh my gosh,
well, that's
ooh,
big.
that is big. I'm sure that sounds exciting, but stressful at the same
Mhm.
time.
I hope you got to unpack.
Yes, yeah, finished the whole process of moving. Oh, so you got to go to the Braille Challenge final. Yes. Yeah, that is
Oh,
awesome. We had several students from Florida there for
so
student
fun.
support. Yes. All right. Well, I'm gonna keep going. You can add in the chat if you want, but we'll move on here. So our objective for this webinar is that you will learn how to register students with FIMC, which students are eligible for products from the American Printing House for the Blind, what services we have available, and how to access them. We do offer in-service and/or ACVREP credit for all of our trainings. The opening code that you want to take note of for now is new. So the word is new. So take note of that, and at the end of the webinar, I will explain how to obtain credit. So some information about FIMC, if you are not familiar with us, we are a statewide resource center for K through 12 students who are visually impaired and enrolled in a public school, private school, or students being homeschooled. We are located in the Hillsborough County Public School system. We are an Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA, funded state project maintained by the Florida Department of Education, Bureau of Exceptional Education and Student Services. Our vision is striving for access and success at the highest levels for all students with visual impairments, and our mission is to promote the success of Florida students with visual impairments by providing free, high-quality, accessible instructional materials in a timely manner, and providing teachers, administrators, families, agency personnel, and others with resources and opportunities for training and professional learning, much like we are doing today. So this is an overview of the services that we provide. So at the top here, we have that we support districts and local education agencies. That's a term you may be familiar with. You're going to see us using that a lot this year. LEA is this kind of interchangeable with district. But LEAs in the procurement or production and distribution of accessible instructional materials or braille and large print, providing professional learning opportunities, including quality programs for students with visual impairments. We do work with the American Printing House for the Blind to identify eligible students for their services and provide free products to support their accessible education. Related to that, we have a loan library which houses many items, including curriculum and even technology for stakeholders to trial when identifying the best tools for their students. FIMC puts on student and family events each year to promote the student achievement, including Florida Regional Braille Challenge, Florida King Quest, and the Florida APH Abacus Math Bee. And I'll talk a little bit more about those events in a few slides. So I did mention the quality program for students with visual impairment. That is a multi-year improvement program for willing districts and LEAs where you're going through a whole process to kind of standardize and improve your processes of writing reports and doing evaluations, maintaining a master list, all kinds of activities to make sure that students are getting the best possible services. So that is one of the many types of technical assistance that we offer to the state and district slash LEAs. We do offer direct support to any of you that may call or email us with questions about your students with visual impairments. We are here to assist in any way that we can. So an overview of our staff, all of the things that I just mentioned on the previous slide are supported and completed by our, I hope this count is right, 14 full-time staff members. So 6 of these staff are the ones who manage all of our orders and back-end processes, including student registration, APH orders, loan library requests, shipping and receiving, producing large print materials. So that is our support staff folks that we have. So our accountant one position right now, it's vacant. It has been for a while, but we have a new staff member starting on September 1st. His name is Marcellus Taylor, so we're excited about that. We have our manager one, Denise Battle, our secretary three, who is Diana Preslowski. Our control clerk is Colleen Mulcahy. Our accessible media producer is Diana Moyer, and our accessible media worker, who we hired over the summer or early in the summer, is Julie Stamper. Then we have 4 statewide educational specialists. 3 of those individuals, so that's Andrea Wallace, Sue Glazer, and Sherry Hart, provide the training and that we do and coordinate student and family events. And then we have a 4th student and statewide educational specialist who works with statewide assessments. So that is Tori Short. And then we have 2 Braille and Accessible Assessment Specialists, Kathy Krempleski and Karen Reno, who work closely with Tori Short, and they are the ones that provide support to the Bureau of K-12 Student Assessment and the development of Braille versions of statewide assessment. So every single statewide assessment has a Braille version, and they're checking that to make sure that the Braille is accurate, along with contracted proofreaders that we have. Um, we have some more people that have joined us. Wonderful. All right. What do we have in the chat? Joanna, I got to meet with Sherry this summer. That's always fun. Oh, wonderful. Yes. I wonder where you got to see her. Okay. So that is our staff. We are small but mighty. And at the end of this presentation, I do have a reminder of who to contact for what. So the next thing we have is our website. If you go to www.fimcvi.org, These are the sections that you will see across the top of our web page. So really anything that you need from us and any of our forms, it's all on our website. So the first section, services. So this is a description of all of the services that we provide, including eligibility for our services, and there are links to forms throughout this page on our website. Including a newer page that we've added that I hope everyone is familiar with. I think we added it sometime last school year, maybe even the year before, is a separate loan library page that has our loan library list and then comparison charts on there. The form page, I think just about every single form that we have is on that forms page. We like our forms. They help us sort of gather what we need and then keep track of everything that we're doing. This also has the parent consent forms for the American Printing House for the Blind, which are required for registration. The online system goes directly to our platform or database that is used for ordering textbooks, registering students with us, and completing the annual census, which happens in January. The resources section is probably one of our bigger sections of our website. This has Florida-specific resources in it, eligibility and assessment support, instructional resources, student and family information, Braille transcription resources, and more. If you haven't been there in a while, I encourage you to go and just kind of click around and see what's in there. There's also a downloadable document section there that has all of the things that we have created as a center. So you can just quickly find anything that we've produced that might be helpful to you. Some examples of what's on there are obtaining digital text, obtaining medical reports. Um, I know there are others. They're escaping me right now. Tiffany can remind us in the chat, but definitely go back and look at that because there are probably some new things in there for you. The upcoming events page is where you will see everything that we have coming this year. So it's split up into our virtual training and events, our in-person events, and then student and family events. So you can see everything that's coming this year that will be happening and sign up for all of those things, get them on your calendar, book your hotel if you need to. This is definitely the place to go to see what's happening at FIMC. Then on our past events page, anything that we have recorded is going to go on this page, and we do have that separated by category. We tried to make it make sense, but if anything, you can always do Control F and you will be able to search for a topic that maybe you're looking for. But we have things on compensatory skills. We have the things that are specific to Florida. I think we have a whole section on technology. So lots of different webinars that are on there. We do try to go back and make sure that the information that is there is current and up to date. So we will take things down if we think that it's not appropriate anymore, but we are always adding things to that as we are always having webinars. And then the contact us page, this is a staff listing that has our email addresses on there. I think this may need to be updated. It will definitely be updated after a new staff member joins us in September. So for our professional learning, I kind of mentioned this a little bit, but so Tiffany Conrad, our coordinator, she oversees professional learning and works with Andrea, Sherry, and Sue to manage all of those activities. Everything that we do through our professional learning is free to anyone who is interested. So if you're in Florida and you're a teacher, you're a parent, you're an agency staff, anyone who's involved in the education of students with visual impairment, we provide certificates upon the completion of any requirement for any training or event that we have. And then you're responsible for taking that certificate and bringing it to your district or LEA, or if you're not with the district or LEA, to the state to get that approved so then you can get credit for it. Um, and so I already mentioned the upcoming event page on our website. We do have a link here to our Some More page, which is the platform that we use for communication. So if you're not getting our emails, which we have sent out quite a few already this school year, definitely make sure that you sign up for that. But if you've missed any, you can go to this link and you'll see all of the things that we have sent out previously. Um, But just to share some of the things that we have coming up this year and things that you may not know about. So we have a variety of self-paced courses on a Canvas site. So one of those is one that we've had for a while. It's a course for classroom teachers and others who are new to the needs of students with visual impairments. And now we have three courses for students serving students who are deafblind. And these are all from the National Center for Deafblindness. So it's not content that we created. The experts created that content and we just bought it into our platform so that you can get that content and get credit for completing those courses. The upcoming webinars that we have are on statewide assessments. We already had one webinar on state. Did we, Tiffany? Am I remembering wrong? We did. I
Yes, we did.
we
We
did.
we
Thank
had
you. That
one,
was
and
last
it's
week.
in past events. Yes, we
Yes,
did.
thank you. And they have three more coming this year. So as our statewide assessment team has grown, our offerings have grown, just to really make sure that everyone is prepared and ready for administering statewide assessments and understand the expectations of our students. There's going to be a repeat of our webinar on the eligibility rule for visual impairment. We did several of those last year, but we decided to offer another the same content this year for anyone who missed it or wants a refresher. We are going to have a webinar soon on the Mangold curriculum, if you're familiar with that, which is excellent for students who need to learn those tactile skills for reading Braille. And
On 18th,
on the
not September
18th.
18th. Mhm.
Yes, so coming soon. Um, and just to give you a little idea of what's on the past event page of our website, so those and also the everything, just about everything that's on the past events page of our website is also on our YouTube channel. So if you prefer to just go to YouTube and you just want to like go through and let me just put it on a loop, just continuous. Like once you're finished with one video, just keep going to the next FIMC video, and then you can learn all the things. Um, but there's lots of things on there ranging from Braille instruction to using AAC with students who are visually impaired. What else do we have coming this year? So we have our spring working with the experts. It's going to be a 2-day in-person workshop in April that's going to be focused on math instruction for students with visual impairment with a focus on digital math. And that will be presented by Sarah Larkin, which if you're familiar, she's done quite a bit of work with Project Inspire and with Susan Osterhaus. So that's going to be a wonderful training. We're going to have 3 virtual district or LEA vision contact meetings for those who are responsible for overseeing vision programs. The first one is actually next week, a week from today. There will be an in-person meeting adjacent to our working with the experts. So if you are or you know who your vision contact is, make sure that they're aware that we are going to have 4 meetings this year, 3 virtual, 1 in person. And we have sent that information out, which so you can find that on that link that Tiffany put in the chat. I think a few, yeah, back up there, are some more links. And but again, our website is always the best place to find details and dates and register and all that good stuff. All right, so our 2025-26 student and family events. So this is a little bit different. If you've been around for a while, this is a change from what we've done in the past. So our first event coming up very quickly here is the APH Florida Abacus Math Bee. That is going to be on October 4th in Tampa. So that's a different location from what we announced previously. That will be in Tampa here at our office that we moved to last year. I'm losing track of time in case you can't tell. And then after that, we will have Florida Cane Quest on November 15th in Tampa. And then for a Florida Regional Braille Challenge, we're having one event this year. It will be on February 13th in Tampa. So the event that we would normally have in Orlando, Miami, and Tallahassee will not be held for this school year. We'll revisit for next year, but for this year, just one event in Tampa on February 13th. Any student in Florida is welcome to participate in the Tampa event, no matter where that student is located. They are welcome to come to that event. So we hope that all of you can make it to that one, and we will let you all know if for the 26-27 school year if there are any changes to that. But like I said on the previous slides, if you go to the upcoming events page of our website, you'll see the student and family event section, and there's information about all of these events as for registration and deadlines and all that good stuff. We do always need volunteers for these events to help us run them. Whether we're looking for judges or proctors, things like that. Um, but as far as the students who are coming to these events, you as a teacher do not need to be there. We don't want that to be a barrier for a student participating. It just needs to be family that are there with the student. So a parent or a caregiver, somebody, a guardian who can be with the student at the event. But you as a teacher, it's not a requirement for you to be there as well. So if you can't make it, that's okay, but just still be sure to share information about these events with your students. Um, Tiffany, did you want to share any other details about these?
No, I think that's good at this time.
Okay. Hmm. All right. So, oh, Natalia, I see you have your hand raised. Did you have a question? Can I? No. Did you? Yeah, if you want to speak, I think we've turned on the mic for you, or you're welcome to type a question in the chat. Okay. Mm, all right. Let's see. All right, so I see a question. Is there any travel aid to help with the event? Do you mean to help a student at the events? So we do have volunteers that can help be as guides at our events. And I think that's what you're, okay. Yes. Yeah. So if you so for all of these events, there's a student registration. So that form has to be filled out. And then there's an adult registration, and that's any adults, whether they're family, teachers, volunteers. So if you would like to volunteer for any of these, you're going to want to look for the adult registration form. And when you fill that out, there's usually like a list of the volunteer functions activities, and you can pick what you would like to do, or you can say, I'm open for whatever Sue Glazer would like to volunteer me for. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, so
so
there's a competitor registration form, and then basically like in all other persons who are going to attend. So we even ask that parents register, and that they
mhm.
even register the other little children that are coming, their siblings,
Yes,
just so
yeah,
we can
that's
have
true.
an accurate count of all the persons who are going to come to the event. And
Hmm.
so definitely volunteers are part of that form.
Yes.
Thank you for asking. Great question.
Yes. Yeah. And thank you for reminding me about the siblings because, yes, we do even ask that any other children that are the family members of the contestant be registered. And the big reason for that is food because we do get donations to provide lunch at these events, and we needed that accurate head count so we know how much food to provide. So, and Sue, put her plug in the chat. Yep, all of those forms are available on each event page. You definitely don't want to miss these, yes.
Okay.
All right. So our other big function that we have is accessible instructional materials. So I mentioned some of our staff, Denise Battle, Diana Moyer, and Julie Stamper all work with various aspects of textbook procurement, production, and inventory. Right now we have an entire media center at a middle school site that is wall-to-wall, floor-to-ceiling shelving with some overflow rooms that holds our textbook inventory. So this includes textbooks, supplementary materials like workbooks. We have library books or recreational reading materials in there. We do produce large print in-house at the moment and order some of those materials from vendors. All of our Braille materials that we provide are purchased from vendors. Excuse me. So we do not produce any Braille in-house. And we work with a variety of vendors across the country to get the books that we provide to all of you. So we have about 30,000 Braille and large print books in our inventory. We provide around 3,000 books and materials to students annually. And so um, I think you all know this about us, but so we are not a center where we see what the state has adopted as far as textbooks and we go out and produce those. We wait until you all order the book from us and then we go out and have it made if it hasn't been made already. Um, so when our requests come in, especially for Braille, that Braille book or the book goes out to a vendor to be transcribed, and they produce that one volume at a time. If it's brand new, they're sending us a few volumes at a time, which we then send to you. Or if it's a copy of a book that's already been produced, they typically send us the whole book all at once. But so those books go out to you all, and then you send them back to us when you're done with them, so then we can act as that central repository to make sure that we're not purchasing more books than need to be actually purchased for students. Um, and so part of this is sharing the cost of providing the ink prints that are needed to make the books, because whether it's large print or Braille, more often than not, the vendor that is making that book, and including for us for large print, we need the physical print copy that is being used in the classroom to make the accessible format of the book. So we will often ask you to send us that. And it's not, I haven't really noticed any issues with that lately, but just as a reminder, that is kind of like a cost sharing thing. Because, so let's say in one year, Hillsborough provides the fifth grade math ink print for a book, and then we go out and have that made. So they've taken care of the ink print for that, and then another district orders that same book the following year. So that's great. That's available. And then the next year, Dade is the one that has to provide us a math ink print for a seventh grade science book. And then that book is produced, and then maybe the following year, Hillsborough needs that same book. So the ink print has already been covered. So just kind of how we're all sharing our resources and pooling all of that to make sure that students are getting books and we're not duplicating efforts. We do ask that all books be sent back to us every year because they are expensive to produce, even our large print books. Um, the average cost of a Braille book in the past 5 years was about $1,200, but that's an average, right? So if it's a copy of a book, it might be a few $100s. If it's a brand new book, I had a book for biology this year that the initial transcription was $20,000, and then copies were I think $8,000, something like that. So the costs vary greatly depending on how big the book is. So it's like a per braille page and then tactile graphics. So if there's lots of tactile graphics, the cost is definitely going to go up. Um, and then the average cost of a large print book in the last 5 years was $133. That also varies as well depending on the vendor. I do have large print textbooks that have cost over $1,000. So we definitely want those materials to come back to us so that we don't have to purchase additional copies of a book and we can just keep recirculating the materials that we have. So for initial Braille textbook production, just to provide an overview, often we do need, like I mentioned, that physical copy of the book, and production starts with the beginning of the book. We have considered in the past maybe having it produced based on when the student is going to be using it, but more often than not, requests that we receive are for books that multiple districts are using and requesting. And with that, we just start at the beginning of the book. Um, and then we send the volume to you as we receive them from the vendor. And like I said, plan to return definitely all Braille materials to FIMC, even if it's a workbook. Please try to avoid having students write in the book, put things on the book. Just pretend they're like the books that the other students are using. I think they still don't expect other students to write in books. I don't know. But we definitely want all of those books to come back to us. As far as large print goes, if it's a workbook where all of the students are expected to write in it, then please feel free to use it the way that their peers are using it. But otherwise, we definitely want those books to come back to us as well. We do have a form for providing textbook feedback if you're finding issues with a book where maybe there's a missing content or there's errors, things like that. You can let us know, or you can just send me an email as well to let me know if there's an issue with the book. As far as the timeline of producing Braille, it can take 3 months to 12 months for a complex book, especially if there's not a NIMUS file. So that's that file that publishers can provide that kind of provide a starting point of everything that's supposed to be in the book that can help speed up the Braille production process. So they don't have to manually fix key the entire book. So that help speed it up if there is an IMIS file, but unfortunately, that is not always available. So that's unfortunate because that slows the process down. For large print orders, before you order these for a student, do be sure that a learning media assessment has been completed because research does show that students can comprehend better with prescribed optical devices or digitally enlarged text rather than hard copy large print. The Florida Low Vision Initiative is a great resource for students through the age of 14 who may benefit from a low vision device. Their services are completely free for that low vision evaluation and for the devices that they provide, the glasses. They did a webinar with us a few weeks ago that was recorded and is on the past events page of our website. And I have their contact information towards the end of this presentation as well. As far as our order processing goes, so this gives you an idea of how long it can take to get a book from us, depending on when you order it, and just kind of highlighting that importance of ordering books as quickly as you can, as soon as you can before the start of a school year. So if you're looking for an order to be processed by August, if you submitted an order in March, about 90% of our Braille orders are shipped complete by August. 99% of large print completed by August if it's ordered in March. And so, of course, every month as you get closer and closer to August, that is going down. So, where by the time you get to July, 12% of those Braille orders have been completed, shipped by August, and 36% of large print. And I think so many of us know that Braille, we get why it takes longer because you have textbooks. They have so many visuals and graphics in them now. And even on one page, you can have a dozen different things going on, especially I've seen in some of the math books with charts and graphics and sidebars and captions and callouts. And so Braille transcribers, they have to look at each of those and decide what they're going to do with it, how they're going to present it, and how to recreate it and format it. So that's part of why it takes so long for Braille to be produced. Um, so definitely with ordering books, the sooner the better. We do have our prison Braille program at the Sumter Correctional Institution. Which we started quite a few years ago now, but it does take for someone to be proficient in producing quality textbooks with that formatting. It does take time for them to get to that point. So they are producing books for us now. They're not all 25 of the men are not producing Braille textbooks, but we did have that program created to help expedite that process if we had a facility that was dedicated to our needs. So they are continuing to ramp up and they will be producing more and more as time goes on. So for accessing all of the services that we at FIMC have, there are some things to consider. Teachers, district, or LEA and agency staff must be registered with us as a patron in order to register students with FIMC, to conduct the annual census of students within their organization, to order Braille and large print textbooks, order APH products, and to borrow specific equipment or materials from our loan library. So if you are not already registered with us as a patron, how to do that is to have your ESC director or their designee, or if you're in a school or an agency, that would be a private school, I should say. Your administrator would fill out the staff authorization or removal form. And once that form is filled out and processed, you receive an email with your login for our online system, which is where you register students and order textbooks and do the annual census. Um, we use a separate form as of now. We have a separate form for APH orders, so that's a separate system, and you can find that form on the form page of our website. If you have questions about the staff authorization process or your login or your password, things like that, you can contact me. When you are registering new students with FIMC, as I kind of mentioned on the previous slide, you have to do this prior to ordering materials for a student. So if you're ordering textbooks, APH products, and some loan library materials, you need to register the student with us before you are going to order those materials. So all students that are new to a district or LEA or organization must be registered, and this can be done at any time throughout the school year. So let's say the student was previously registered with us in a different district and then they moved to your district. Even if they're already in our system, we still need you to go in and register that student so we make sure we have all of the correct information most up to date about that student, and then we update their profile on the back end, and then they're in there and you can see them and order materials for them. Students can only be registered with one organization that receives APH quota funds. So we at FIMC, we have an account with APH. So a student can be registered with us and we get materials from APH. There are other institutions in Florida that have APH accounts as well. So the Florida School for the Deaf and the Blind, the Miami Lighthouse, and Division of Blind Services has one where they work more with adults. So if a student is at the Florida School for the Deaf and the Blind and they're registered there, they cannot be registered with us. The same goes for the Miami Lighthouse. They can only be registered with one institution that received funds. To register those students, you need medical report information on hand. And you want to ensure that you have the parental consent form signed and on file in your district or LEA or organization before you register the student. So that consent form is giving permission to share information with APH at annual census time. If the student is in your district, you only need that form signed once, unless the student leaves your district, goes somewhere else, so they withdraw, and then they come back and enroll again, then you need to get that consent form signed again. We do have those forms available in multiple languages on the forms page of our website. You do not need to send the consent form to us. That just stays on file in your within your organization. It should be in the student's records, but you don't need to tell us that it's been filled out or email it to us or anything like that. Um, So that's that about consent. Some of the languages that we have for the consent form are English, Spanish, Farsi, Arabic, French, Haitian Creole, Korean, Russian, and Ukrainian. So when you go to the online system link at the top of our website, it will take you to this page. So this is what the page looks like where you go to log in once you have that login information to register students, order textbooks, and do annual census. So if you click on that online system in the top menu, it will take you here. So once you sign in and you make sure that you click on that little box that says, I am not a robot, you click on that and then you submit, then it will let you sign in. And to register a new student, you're going to hover over VI student in the top menu, and then new student will appear in a drop down and you'll select on that. And then on the next screen, you will ensure that the student meets the eligibility criteria that shows and select I agree. The student registration form is going to ask for all of this information, which is pretty much driven by what the APH requires for annual census. The only information that's here that they do not ask about is dual sensory impairment or progressive eye condition. But so there's going to be some student information that needs to be shared, which include the district or LEA, the type of educational facility, the student's name and date of birth. You're going to share information about reading media, the student's grade level, type of written plan, their primary instructional language, confirm that there's a medical report, progressive eye disease, dual sensory impairment, provide eye medical acuities, and indicate any restricted visual field if available. The top of the student registration form looks like this. So you're just typing in the fields, and where you see the blue, there is a help menu. So you can click on that and it will give you more details if needed. So you can answer the questions as appropriate as you're going through. Many of the fields are drop downs, as you see for the primary reading medium, and they give you specific options. If there's an asterisk all the way over on the left, that is a required field to fill out. And then the bottom of the student registration form, this has a few more questions here. The ones related to the medical report and progressive conditions and dual sensory impairment. You do not need to have an iMedical form. This is kind of a holdover from back when APH did require a current iMedical. So you can check it if you have one. If you don't check it, it's okay. Don't worry too much about that. It's not a requirement, but that field is still there. It just hasn't been removed. So you'll go through and finish all of this. You do have to agree, answer the question on parental consent. And then if you do not select I agree at the very bottom, the system will not let you submit the student registration. So now we'll go through the details of what we just looked at in the form. So for the type of, excuse me, for the type of educational facility, if the student is in a public or charter school, you're going to select public school. If the student is private or homeschool, you're going to select private school. The district at the top should already be loaded and based on your profile. So when you signed in, it's going to automatically load whatever you are signed in under. For the primary reading medium, your choices that you have are auditory, braille, visual, pre-reader, um, symbolic reader. So students that are in infant and preschool programs are most likely going to be pre-readers. A symbolic reader is one that accesses printed materials with tangible 2 or 3-dimensional symbols. Examples of these symbols are photographs, line pictures, real objects, miniature objects, partial objects, etc. These symbols may or may not have braille or print attached, but the student needs the additional symbol to access the learning material. So this definition came from the American Printing House for the Blind. They're the ones that indicate what your options are and what those options mean. So APH uses this information to help them project what materials and textbooks are going to be needed in the coming years. So you're considering here what medium does the student primarily use in their studies. So maybe they are an emerging reader, so they're a pre-reader. So you're going to pick your primary reading medium. This is the one that is required. And then you have secondary and other reading medium. You can pick one of the ones here, or you can pick NA for both of these. You just can't duplicate anything that's already been selected. So if you chose symbolic reader for the primary reading medium, the secondary reading medium should default to NA. But if it doesn't, you can go ahead and select that as well. For the grade level section, your options are IP for infants and children served by infant programs, which is birth to age 3. PS is children of preschool age that are served by preschool programs. Kindergarten is our students that are in kindergarten, KG, and then grades 1 through 12. So that should be self-explanatory. The grade 12 is something that was changed a few years ago by APH. That is for all students who are in grade 12 or are continuing to receive special education services under IDEA until the student turns age 22. Okay, so if that's what they fall under, then you choose grade 12. However, we could have students that where you need to pick AD, which stands for adult. And these are students who are ages 22 and above by the first Monday in January, and they're in grade 12, then they need to be identified as an adult. So just be careful with those older students that are in 12th grade as to which one you're selecting here for the grade level. For the adult student enrollment, if you selected that in the previous question and the student is in high school, then you are going to check the box below because the student is enrolled for at least 20 hours a week. And this is just a screenshot of that grade level question. You'll see it's a drop down and you just select the one that applies to the student. And then the questions that come after that section are the type of written plan. So this is an APH requirement that each student needs to have some type of written plan in place. So you should be able to have one of these apply to your situation. So select whichever one is most appropriate. For the primary language, this is another APH question. So you should choose the language that is the language textbooks are provided in. Because the reason APH asked for this is they're also trying to project the need for material in Spanish or other languages in the coming years. So if the student is, even if they're Spanish speaking or they're speaking another language, if the materials that they are receiving for textbooks are in English, then you would want to select English here. All right. So just a reminder, so as I said before, even though that iMedical question is on our form, it's still there. That's not a requirement. You do want to make sure that all students are registered with us, unless they're at FSDB or the Miami Lighthouse, regardless of whether visual impairment is their primary disability, their secondary disability, or other disability. If the student has a dual sensory impairment, they should be registered with us. Um, we want all students, even if you don't need materials from us, please register the students with us because this is truly one of the best ways getting students registered and counted in the annual census. Is probably one of the most accurate counts that the nation has as to the number of students with visual impairments because there is a child count that happens at the federal level, but to my understanding, that only looks at students that have visual impairment as a primary disability. And we know that's not true for many of our students where it's not their primary disability. So when we register students this way, they're all counted, and that also helps us as a state get more money to then use to provide free materials to students with visual impairments in our state. All right. And also just a reminder that everything, I've said this several times, but this whole registration process, this is specific to the American Printing House for the Blind. So this is completely separate for anything related to eligibility, for visual impairment in Florida, doing reevaluation, dismissal. Those are completely separate requirements. So don't just think of these as two separate processes that are completely unrelated from each other. So just make sure you're not kind of mixing them together. The requirements are completely separate. For the iMedical information section, you are going to enter distance visual acuities using after best correction if available. You can use other codes as needed, so counts fingers, functions of the definition of blindness, hand movement, object perception, light perception, and I always forget what NIL stands for, but I believe it's just that there's no light perception. Um, you can use the optional note to FIMC staff field if there is additional information, especially if the student is a twin. That's a big part of the annual census process is just making sure that there are no duplicate students. So APH does kind of do this whole check to make sure that if there are students with similar names, identical dates of birth, that we are confirming that this is not a duplicate student. This is a unique student. So putting information like that, if they're siblings or twins or whatever, in that notes field will help us as well when we get to annual census time. Um, Also, make sure, I believe this is the area where we had the question about dual sensory impaired. Yes. So if you have students who are dual sensory impaired, do make sure that you are registering with registering those students with the Florida and Virgin Island Deafblind Collaborative as well, because there's also a deafblind census. And they have a whole host of wonderful free materials and services available as well. So definitely tap into that for any of your students who are dual sensory impaired, and even while they're being considered for eligibility, there are services that FAVI or the Florida Virgin Island Deafblind Collaborative can provide as well. And I have information, their contact information at the end of this too. The next section on peripheral fields. So this question is really trying to get at, is this a student who meets the definition of legal blindness? So if you have actual visual field numbers of 20 degrees or less on the medical report, select one of these. Otherwise, leave this section blank. So we're just trying to get at, especially if the student's acuities are better than 2200, is it that they have a significant peripheral field loss, and that's how we know that the student is legally blind. So pick one of those or leave it blank. And so, as I mentioned, at the very bottom of the student registration page is the section on parental consent, and then the statement that you agree with all of the information that has been provided and that it is accurate. So some other features within that online system where you want to register the student, if in that same drop down there that has VI student, there's a view status, and if you select that, you can see the students that you have registered, and you'll see their FIMC student IDs. You can go back and update information on students in this section of the system. You can do this at any time. You can go back in after you have an IEP, reevaluations, whenever. If you have updated information, you can go back and do that under the Edit Student section. Hi. So that is it for student registration in our system. I don't see any questions on this, so I am going to continue on. Okay, so for ordering textbooks, hopefully all of the textbooks that your students need have been ordered by now, but we do know that schedules change, students show up, things like that, so you may still need to order textbooks. The primary information that you need for this can be found in the recording of the Info and Update Part 3 webinar that we held at the end of last school year to share that information. You can review the handout from that presentation as well. So this gives you information about special order requests. So that's if it's a book that you're not finding in our system, so that is apparently something that's never been made or ordered by us before. Ink print requests, which are when we need that physical copy of the book to have the print or braille, the large print or braille made. Checking order statuses, and then renewing and reassigning items to another student or renewing for the same student for that year. You can contact Denise Battle if you have any questions about textbook ordering and statuses. I do want to share, though, some things that I have learned as I have been more involved in the textbook ordering process over the past few months is when you're doing that, if you are ordering for this school year, really make sure with your ISBN that you have a good ISBN and that it's an ISBN for a student book. So one thing as we've been going through, we found sometimes what the ISBN that we have is for a teacher book. And so that may be that the classroom teacher or somebody in the district didn't understand that you were asking for the student edition of the book, not the teacher book for yourself. So just double checking that. And then also we have learned that publishers are required to have different ISBN for the same content if it's in a different format. So if you have a textbook there's a hardcover, there's a soft cover, there's a digital format, there's a bundle, it could all be the same content, but it's a different ISBN. So really making sure that if you've got if you can somehow find out what those other ISBNs are to make sure that we don't have one of those already in our system, because we do try to make sure ourselves that if we're getting one like, well, that looks like a familiar title, trying to go on the Florida School Book Depository website and making sure that it's not a book that we already have, just in a different format, because we definitely don't want to pay for an initial transcription of a Braille book if we actually already have that book, but it's just the soft cover and not the hard cover. Another thing that I've noticed is sometimes we'll get an order and it's just for one unit of a series that might have like 4, 6, 10 units within it, and making sure, do you need all, are there more units? Do you need all of those? Um, Double checking on things like that. So just some things to kind of keep in mind to help make sure that we are getting the books that your students need when we are processing orders. And we do try to check in with you all to confirm things like that as those questions come up. But when in doubt, especially for special order requests, having that physical book from you helps to make sure that we are looking at the right book and that we're not going to be getting something that the student doesn't need. All right. So with all of that being said, so for not so much this year, but possibly 26, 27, uh, we at FIMC are looking at some possible changes for the provision of Braille and large print materials. So right now, one change that we have made going forward, and I think any district that might have been impacted is aware of this, is that district and LEAs are responsible for providing district and LEA created assessments in accessible format. So if your district has used us in the past to have Braille or large print versions made of your district specific assessments, that your district has made themselves, that it is the responsibility of the district to have those accessible formats produced or procured for a student. This has nothing to do with statewide assessment. Statewide assessment is handled by the Florida Department of Education. Um, and that will continue to happen. All of the formats that we have available or will continue to be available. So that's a completely separate thing. But so to best meet the needs of our students across the entire state and ensure fiscal responsibility with our change in budget, we are looking at developing some new guidelines for fulfilling, textbook orders for next school year. So some things just to throw them out there that we are considering in light of the situation to maximize is that we may reduce the provision of large print materials because we know that there are other ways that our students who need access to large print can get that access. So students, if you have students that only ever use large print, like I said earlier, that research shows that students have better access if they're using optical devices or video magnifiers than to use hard copy large print. This would be a good time to start making sure that they know how to use a variety of methods to access print for large print. And especially just for their long-term skills, right? Because we know that the more independent a student is, the more they can use different devices and access that information independently rather than relying on adults and other processes to give them access to the information that they need. Especially for students, if they're eligible for the Florida Low Vision Initiative, this would definitely be the time to reach out to them and get more information about that. Another thing that we are considering is possibly phasing out Nemeth. I don't know. That would be a very long-term process, most likely. But we do know that UEB Math Science is now widely available. It's the only code that is used in the rest of the English-speaking world. Um, if anything were to change with that, though, again, that's not necessarily anything to do with statewide assessment, because that is a completely separate function system. Um, so that would be a separate topic. But so those are things that we're thinking about. Possibly even just focusing more on state adopted materials and not so much district adopted materials. We are going to be talking a little bit more about this at our Vision Contacts meeting that we're having next week. So if you are a Vision Contact or you know who your Vision Contact is, please encourage them to come to this meeting next week. so they can be part of this discussion that we're going to have about the provision of Braille and large print textbooks for 2026-27. Okay, so another change that is coming soon. We have our online system that I just showed you how to use for registering students and that we have information about ordering textbooks. However, we have a new portal coming. It's the FIMC portal. It's been in development for quite some time, but this will be coming very soon. It'll be here before you know it. This is what the landing page of that new system looks like. It will be replacing the online system. So the launch is planned for October 1st. So that's 6 weeks away, more or less. It will initially include student registration, annual census, and textbook ordering. So everything that you currently do in the online system will be in the FIMC portal. Some additional features that will be added at some point during the school year will be APH product requests, loan library items, and Braille requests and repairs. So instead of using those separate forms that we have for those types of items, you would be ordering these things through our new FIMC portal. We will be hosting multiple webinars over throughout the month of towards the end of September, I will say, as we get closer to the launch date, on how to use this new system, and we will be providing user guides. We're working on creating all of those training materials now to make sure this is as seamless as a transition as possible. Um, but I will say that we do expect there to be some glitches while we make the switch, as there is with any major change. I don't know about you, but where we are in our current district, there have been a lot of system changes, which can be bumpy sometimes. And our current database has at least 20 years of data in it, so we're also trying to figure out how much of that history we want to bring over to ensure that only that needed information is available. Um, so some of the changes that will be part of that is that so if you are in our current system and you are active in our current system and our online system, you're going to be brought over, but you're going to need to reset your password prior to logging in for the first time. Um, and you can reset your password yourself. You don't have to fill out a form in this new system to have your password reset. You can make it whatever you want to be, reset it as many times as you need if you forget it. If you're going to be new to this new system that we have, you will be able to register yourself. We will not be using the staff authorization form to add users when we move to this new portal. Um, the access to the different functions that are within the portal, like textbooks and student registration, annual census, APH loan library, and bill writers, is all going to be dependent on your role and administrative approval. So you may register, but once you register, you can't access anything yet. Your administrator, so if you're in a district, it's your ESE director or their designee, is going to have to log in and approve you and say, yes, I approve this person to have access to the portal so they can see student identifiable information, right? Because the key is we want to keep that information secure. And then your role determines what you're able to do within the system. So, for example, general education teachers, while they can register for this, they will not be able to order textbooks, APH products, register students. They will be able to see some of the loan library items, and that's about it. Um, so really making sure that the right people have the right access to our services. Um, so, and then the last thing that I want to tell you just for now to be aware of is that all patrons within an organization with those roles that meet the criteria, so if you're a TBI within a district, you will be able to see all the registered students within your district and the order history for all of those students within your district, if everything works the way that we intend it to. Um, so that will be a change as well. So October 1st, keep an eye out for webinars that will be happening towards the end of September to help with this. And we will likely have our current system down for maybe about a week to kind of help us make sure everything is ready before we do a final migration of all of the data from our current system to the new one. So Please be sure to let your colleagues, your administrators in your district, your friends in other districts know that this is coming because this is going to be a change. Just like I said, with that, the approval process and all that kind of stuff, that is going to be different. So we want to make sure everyone knows this is happening. So please do share this far and wide with all of your friends and neighbors and relatives. Um, well, not all of those people, just the people who need to know. All right. So let's talk about additional FIMC services that we have. The American Printing House for the Blind, our materials and ordering. So to give you some background on APH, in 1879, the Congress of the United States passed the act to promote the education of the blind. And this act designated APH as the official supplier of educational materials to all students in the U.S. who meet the definition of blindness and are working at less than the college level. So, myself as FIMT director is an ex officio trustee of APH on behalf of the Florida Department of Education. So we get that pot of federal quota funds to order products from APH for students who are registered with us, which are then at no cost to you. So, but we do have some criteria, which I will be going over on the next slide. But so we have some APH products here, but just so an idea of the cost of some of the products that APH has as we go into that, and then you'll hear about how much money we get from APH. So the building and pattern curriculum that you see here is about $1,200 for the pre-K curriculum. The LED mini light box that you see is $298. The Joy Player is $349. I think the latest price on a Perkin Braille writer is just over $1,000. So since we receive a set amount of money per student, so there's a big pot of money that APH receives from the federal government for the entire country, and then each one of their accounts across the country registers all their students, and then that big pot is divided based on the students that are registered. And so then there's like a per student allocation that is given to each account across the country. So we just get a set amount of money per student that is registered with us. So that's why we do have kind of criteria and restrictions on what can be what can be ordered to make sure their APH funds aren't spent incredibly fast and depleted without as many students as possible benefiting from them. So we do ask with our APH ordering to just kind of keep in mind that if you have a kit and you're missing parts of that kit, consider ordering the replacement item for it rather than getting a whole new kit. You can check with other people in your district or your organization to see if they have what you're looking for. We do have on our Canvas site, which is all, so we have our Canvas site and then our Canvas account has all those courses that I talked about earlier, but the Canvas resource site for teachers and staff has an APH product swap meet. So we will post things on there that we're looking to get rid of. People in districts and or organization can post things that you don't need anymore. When you're ordering, always check the APH website for the current status of materials, because things can go on back order, they can be discontinued, they might be out of stock, just so you have a sense of the availability of the items that you want. Just about all technology the APH has is available from us through our loan library on a trial basis rather than purchasing those things because most of the technology is over $1,000, multiple $1,000s. So we let you borrow those things to trial, and then your district or organization can purchase those things directly. Assessment kits like the Woodcock Johnson, the Rat 5, Key Math, Bain, Brigands, those are also things that we keep in our loan library rather than you purchasing them because they're typically only needed for a short amount of time. And they're also being used in conjunction with a school psychologist generally. So we keep those on hand. You can request those to borrow from our loan library. And let's get into oh, I see a question. Will existing registered students data move over automatically? So we are bringing over all of the active students for sure. We will likely be bringing over a few years of historical student data. Um, we're kind of trying to figure out if we're going to make everyone go in and update each student, definitely an annual census you will need to be doing updating because the acuity part of the student registration is different. Instead of it being a field, it's a drop down. So you have specific choices of what you're going to pick for the acuities. So definitely by annual census, every student will have to be updated. So we're just kind of figuring out what the requirements will be for that. But most of the student data will come over for each student that is currently active and then a few years of history. All right. So for the APH criteria, a student, and this is all set by the American Printing House, and they have to have this approved by the federal government as well. So a student has to meet one of the following. So they have to meet the definition of legal blindness, 2200 or less in the better eye with best correction, or that peripheral field of no greater than 20 degrees function at the definition of blindness, which is essentially our students that have cortical, cerebral, neurological visual impairment, or meet the definition of visual impairment in IDA. That's a newer category that was added within the past few years, which essentially means that any student that's been identified as being visually impaired, even if they're not legally blind or they don't have CBI, they're eligible because they've been identified, they have an IEP where they're visually impaired. So just about all of our students are going to meet one of these. So the other criteria that APH has is that the student must be enrolled in a public or private nonprofit educational program of less than college level. Students in homeschool programs should meet Florida guidelines and or procedures. There must be a written educational plan. The student must be enrolled with the registering school or agency on the first Monday in January. And then, like I said before, only one school or agency can register a child. You must have iMedical information on file. So that's there, but I'll just add that could be maybe you don't have the report. For some reason, it's a student that transferred from out of state, but that information is embedded within the IEP or within an assessment. You can use that information. And you must have the signed consent to share student information with APH on file at your site. So our policies that we have for APH ordering, as of right now, are that almost all APH products that are under $1,000 are approved for orders. The exceptions are our assessments from Curriculum Associates and Video Mag HD. Um, we don't allow you to order the Newt, but I think the Newt is over $1,000. You can order parts of the Newt, but not the entire Newt kit. We do allow you to order the Joy Player, the Code Jumper, and the Braille Buzz. So that's the technology that APH has that we allow you to order. And I suppose I should have updated that even more because I will say too, in addition to that, we also allow you to get Fusion. So Fusion is the software that has Zoom Text and JAWS in it. APH has moved to Fusion Suite instead of having two separate Zoom Text and JAWS purchases. We do still have, from my understanding, a few Zoom Text and JAWS licenses available until they are gone. Once those are gone, you will be able to get Fusion from us, or you can get Fusion now if you want that. Um, the Poly is an APH device that is in our loan library. So if you want to get that for a student, that's something that you're going to borrow from our loan library. And products that are over $1,000 that are approved include the Perkin Braille Writer, which you will request through our Braille request form, and Building on Patterns Pre-K. And APH's fiscal year, just so you know, is October through September. So they get very, very busy at the end of September, the beginning of October, because they're making sure that all of the money across the entire country is being spent. So a crush of orders happening at the end of that fiscal year. So any orders that you submit after September 5th are going to be delayed because of that additional processing time that APH needs for their fiscal year changeover and clean out. If you have any questions about APH product orders, you can contact Colleen. Okay, then annual census. We will definitely go over more of that at the November webinar, the part two of this series. But annual census is something that has to be done every year. Every student should be counted. You need that information from a medical report, regardless of where you're finding it. You'll need that to fill out to update for the annual census, that signed consent to share student information, and we will send out a notification to ESE directors and other administrators when census is open, so they know what their part of the process is. All right. So Perkins Braille writers, I mentioned those and that we have a separate form to request those. You're not going to request those through the APH form. We have our Perkins Braille writer form. That form is on the form page of our website. If you need a brailler to be repaired, you're going to fill out the form. You'll get an email back after you submit the form. You're going to print the email out and put it in the box with the brailler and send the brailler to APH via Free Matter for the Blind. So where the postage would normally go, you're putting Free Matter for the Blind. Um, that brailler is not going to come back to you. So we changed that process a little while ago to better manage our inventory, that any brailler sent for replacement is going to come back to us and go back into our stock. So if you need a brailler when you're sending one for repair, after you fill out the repair request, just fill it out again and ask for a replacement brailler, and then we'll send another brailler to you. And of course, if you have braillers on hand that they're working, but you don't need them anymore for whatever reason, you can always send those back to us as well. Attention to Denise Battle. Our loan library, which I've mentioned a little bit, so we do have a variety of devices available in our loan library for districts and LEAs and organizations to trial and see what works best for your student. The Clover, Cloverbook, HumanWare Reveal 16, Victor Reader Track, Braille Note Touch Plus, the APH devices like Poly, Jupiter, Juno, Chameleon, Mantis, Page Blaster, etc., etc. The length of the loan varies by the device and the product, and if there is a wait list. All items that are loaned out from the loan library must be returned to us. There are no consumable items. And I say that because previously the mangold was sort of considered a consumable where parts of that could be kept. But at this point, with our situation, we are asking that everything be for review only and that those things are sent back to us. When you're borrowing technology from us, you are going to have a hold harmless that you're going to sign digitally. And when you send those types of things back, you're going to get a return shipping label from us so we can track that. Do you want to make sure for any technology that you're holding onto the box that the item came in because you're going to use that same box to send the item back to us, and that you're keeping any of like the cords and adapters, whatever kinds of things came with that device, and that you follow any instructions that came with the item from Colleen. There are some additional resources on our loan library page. We have comparison charts for video magnifiers and braille displays if you're trying to decide which devices you would like to borrow. So that loan library page is on our services page. The request form is on our form page. If you have questions about loan items or loans, you can contact Colleen. If you have questions about specific recommendations and troubleshooting with products, you would want to reach out to Andrea Wallace. I have her information in a few slides as well. Our visual field newsletter, we have a mailing list of over 2,500 subscribers, but we are finding that not everyone is on this and not everyone is receiving these emails. So if you think you're signed up, but you're not if you haven't received anything from us within the past month, then you might be blocked or something might have happened. So reach out to Tiffany if that's the case. But so this platform, some more that we use in our newsletter and other email communications is how we communicate what's coming up and what's going on. So our training opportunities, current events, teacher tips, they're sent to over 600 teachers and families quarterly. That's just our newsletter. But like I said, there's other emails that we're always sending out. Um, I think we just sent one out about assessment, statewide assessment, vision contacts, maybe Abacus B, so lots of things going out. Our professional learning staff creates a newsletter. If you have anything you would like to have added, maybe you have something, some event that you want to share, or something that you learned that you think would be great for everyone to know about, you can contact our staff to have something added to the newsletter. And we have the link here for joining our mailing list if you're not signed up, and our newsletter webpage. That is where all of our things that have been sent out previously are all showing. A new resource that we created over the summer is a for our emerging readers that we have. So this is a list of organizations that provide free books for students with visual impairments. So books that are Braille, Braille with the label overlays on them. So it's a pretty lengthy list. We have one that's for teachers and then one that is for parents and caregivers. And you can find this document on our website if you go to the resources page, and then the downloadable document section is where you will find that. We still have Lego Braille bricks. So I don't know how many kits we have at this point, but we've been giving them out steadily over time. But if you would like to request a kit from us, we have a form on the form page of our website. These requests should only be for students who are registered with FIMT because this is considered an APH product. And just a reminder that these should not be used for initial Braille instruction, but are great for play and interaction with peers. Another thing that we are continuing this year is helping to provide mentors for new teachers that are in the state, whether you're new to the field or new to our state. And you would like a professional mentor to communicate with you throughout the school year, you can complete the form that is on this slide. It's also on the form page of our website. And this can be set up however is best for you. Communication can take place via phone calls, email, virtual platforms, and we can help connect you with experienced TPIs and or O&M instructors, and it's dependent on that person's time and availability. And one last reminder about all of the many forms that I have been talking about throughout this webinar is make sure to read those form instructions carefully and make sure you're typing your correct email address. I do get notifications like if an email failed to go through, like for in-service credit for the certificates that are emailed to you, your confirmation emails for Braille repair, those are especially important to make sure your email is correct. For when we're asking for a mailing address, make sure it's the complete USPS mailing address. So it has the receiver's name because it might be someone different from you, and then the name of where that item is going. So if it's a school, having the school name on there. So in our example, the teacher's name, the name of the school, and then the address. If you need to cancel any requests for anything that you have submitted to us, whether it's a textbook, it's an APH item, a Brailler, a loan library item, please contact us directly to cancel those requests. All right, so who should you contact if you have questions about all of these things that I went through? And this also, this is sort of kind of what's on our contact us page on our website as well, but this is just kind of one little snapshot of resource list. So professional learning is Tiffany Conrad, student and family events, Sue Glazer, quality programs for students with visual impairments. If you'd like to learn more about that and get on the wait list, that is Sherry Hart. Questions about staff authorization for our online system and forgotten password, contact me. Questions about student registration and student IDs, contact Tiffany. Textbook ordering and statuses, Denise Battle. Perkin Pro Writer, Julie Stamper. APH ordering is Colleen. Loan library requests, returns, and extensions is also Colleen. And finally, loan library recommendations and product advice is Andrea Wallace. And last but not least, this is some of the other programs that I have mentioned today are other resources in Florida. The Florida Low Vision Initiative for your students who would benefit from a low vision evaluation and low vision devices. Kim Roberts is the contact there. If you have students who are dual sensory impaired or being considered for dual sensory impairment eligibility, you want to contact Michelle Pearson at the Florida and Virgin Island Deafblind Collaborative. And last but not least, if you or your colleagues are interested in getting a degree in visual, is it blind and low vision? Blind and low vision. They just changed the name of the program at
Yeah.
FSU.
Blindness
Um,
and revision program.
Blindness and low vision program. Okay. If you are interested in becoming an orientation mobility instructor, they have changed that program a little bit to make it easier for working adults to get that certification. You will want to contact Michael Tuttle or Tim Puck. Those are the guys there that have taken over. If you're familiar with Eileen Bischoff, she is not the contact at FSU for these programs anymore. It's Michael and Tim. And that is all I have. Did Eileen retire? Eileen did not retire. She is moving. I believe she will still be involved with FSU in some other capacity, but she is not the contact for the degree programs. I'll say that. Okay. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us this morning and taking all of this information and sharing it with everyone you know in the state. If you could take a moment and fill out our evaluation form that is the QR code on the left side of the screen, we really appreciate your feedback and we incorporate that into our future trainings. Um, if you are looking for in-service and or ACVREP credit, the code that you are looking for is portal. Hopefully that makes sense with our opening code, closing code. I'll put that in the chat. Um, so you're going to fill out that form, and when you fill it out, a certificate will be emailed to you, which you will provide to your organization for them to approve so you can receive that credit. Both of these forms are on our upcoming events page, past events page, and the form page of our website, and Tiffany has put them in the chat. Thank you, Tiffany.
So
I'm
welcome.
gonna go on to the next slide for a moment. I can come back to this one, but you have my email address here. We have our location here in Tampa, phone number and fax to sign up for our mailing list, which I believe Tiffany included in the chat earlier as well. Um, and our YouTube channel, if you want to see when we have added a new recording to our page, so you can rewatch or go back and watch something else. And that is it. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording.